So I know there's a couple of new players in the game. I see a lot of you in the comments asking for advice, so I thought I'd make a guide for pulling on units, as well as pulling on some astral gear. And pulling is actually a very important part of the game that gets overlooked. Like, you have to come in here prepared, you have to know what's going on. You can't just step into this pulling area casually, because this is where you're going to spend your hard-earned luck site hours and hours of grinding. So you need to know what you're doing and also not get caught up in a number of traps. So let me first discuss some of the pull mechanics, and then we'll go into the pulling psychology. Now, I've been playing the game for well over a year now, and there's still new things that I'm learning. So it's always important that you kind of understand as much as you can about the pulling mechanics. So firstly, let's start off with what type of banners do you have? What type of things can you pull for? So first we have the debut banner. So the debut is going to be the new unit that's coming into the game. So in this case, it's going to be this unit, Credenza. So she's the new unit that's featuring the latest unit. They usually come with a character trial where you can sort of test run the character to see if you like the character or not. A little bit of a description of the unit. They'll say what type of unit. Are they a watcher? Are they a seeker, defender, breaker, or destroyer? Which factions they're from? Some of their moves, and they'll show what rank this specific credenza is. This is a 5-star credenza. So usually the credenza, the debut unit you play with in the character trial, is a 5-star, so the best possible version of the unit. So consider that, because once you get the unit, you'll only get a 1-star unit, so it won't be as good as the character that's in the character trial. And then you can pull for the unit. You can try 1 pull, or you can try 10 pulls. So when you select any debut banner or any kind of banner, there'll be a details icon in the right here where you can click the details of the mechanics of this type of banner. So they give you the details of a debut banner, and they'll have a guarantee, so a hard pity, where you are guaranteed to get the unit after a certain number of pulls. In my case, it's 92 pulls until I'm guaranteed to get credenza, but this starts off at 180 pulls. So for every unit every debut unit, you are guaranteed to get them after 180 pulls. If you pull up to 180 pulls and you don't get the unit, then you get sort of a pity. A hard pity on the unit. That's a fail-safe that's built into the game. Worst case scenario, you pull 180 pulls and you get the unit. Otherwise, they give you the percentage chance of getting the debut unit, which in this case is going to be 50% chance if you trigger upon acquiring a legendary. If you trigger a legendary pull, there's a 50% chance it will be the debut unit. So for any legendary unit, it's 2% chance that you get a legendary unit. And then if you do get a legendary unit, it's a 50% chance that that legendary unit will be the debut unit. So it's 50-50 there. Otherwise, if you don't get credenza, then you'll get one of the other characters that are already in the game. One of these characters from the game's character pool. Also, there's a 20% chance to get an epic unit, 40% chance to get rare, and 38% chance to get a common unit. Yeah, they will explain the rules to you. So there's a 2% chance to get a legendary character, and a 50% chance that that legendary character will be the debut unit. And also in any summon event, so not just this debut event, the debut banner, each summon adds 1 count to the global guaranteed counter. When the global guaranteed counter reaches 100, you are guaranteed to randomly gain a legendary character from the current event. Upon gaining a legendary character, the global guarantee counter will be reset. Current global guarantee is 32 summons until a guaranteed random legendary character. This is excluding the debut unit. This is just talking about any kind of event. We have hard pity, which is 180 pulls and you're guaranteed to get the debut unit. And then this is what they refer to as the soft pity, which is if you pull 100 pulls and you don't get anything, on the 100th pull you are guaranteed to get a random legendary unit. So we have hard pity at 180 pulls and you have soft pity at 100 pulls. For me, mine is currently at 32 pulls, 32 summons until I get a guaranteed random legendary character. It won't guarantee me this debut unit, but it will guarantee me one of the other units that are currently in the game's pool as well. And then they have debut unit guarantee rules. So they have the rules for the debut unit, which I already spoke about, which is the 180 pulls until you're guaranteed to get a debut unit. And I'm currently sitting at 92 pulls. Important to note here, triggering the debut guarantee counter. So if you trigger this 180, or if you just get the debut unit, in this case credenza, it does not simultaneously trigger the global one. the global guarantee counter remains unchanged. So the global guarantee is referring to the soft pity where you can get any random legendary, the 100 pulls. That will remain unchanged. So even if we pull Credenza, the debut unit for instance, then our soft pity will still remain. It won't reset back to 100. They're separate, they're exclusive of one another. And vice versa, if you get a random legendary unit that's not Credenza, then your 180 pull hard pity will still remain. It won't reset back to 180 pulls. And then they just refer to, if you obtain a duplicate character, if you already have the legendary and you get another copy of them, they will just be converted into memory shards for that unit, so you can increase the character's star level. Okay, so that's the debut unit's mechanics. And then underneath here we have imprint. This is referring to astral imprint. So these are going to be astral weapons or astral trinkets. So these come together with the debut unit. So the new unit that features comes with their gear, is usually featured here. For free-to-play players, or even some low spenders, it's not recommended to pull for this. It's very expensive to pull. It costs the same amount of pulls basically as pulling for a unit. So you can end up spending 1,500 Hope Luxite to pull for 10 tries, for instance, of this. They'll also have a description here of a 5-star version of what this thing is. This thing also comes with its own pity. Mine is currently sitting at Astral Gear guaranteed within 24 summons. So you can see it under the details here as well. So here we have the imprint guarantee within 24 summons. The probability of triggering a legendary trinket is a bit higher than the units. It's 5% versus the 2% for units. So if you do trigger this 5% and you get a legendary, there's a 75% chance that it will be this specific debut Astral Gear. So the chances are a bit higher over here. And then here's all the other weapons in the game that are here. If you don't hit the 75%, you'll get one of these. And this one has a pity as well of 50. So if you don't get the Astral thing within 50 pulls, you will get it on the 50th pull, you're guaranteed. Mine is currently sitting at 24. Next up we have the Destined banner. So the Destined banner is what they refer to as the dual banner. There's usually 2 units that are in this banner. This thing's pity is also going to be separate, its own separate pity from all the other banners. So if you trigger your global or the random legendary at 100 pulls, for instance, this will remain unchanged. It won't reset. As well as if you pull the debut unit, this will also remain unchanged. It won't reset. So if you pull on a unit and you get a 2% chance and you pull a legendary, there's a 75% chance that it will be one of these units. And then obviously it's going to be 50-50 again, 50% chance whether it's the one you want. Maybe you want Nungal, then it's only 50% chance. So there's much lower chances of getting the unit you want here than in the debut unit. Very risky banner to pull for. I don't recommend pulling for these Destined banners, and the units in here are older units that are already in the game. It's usually not worth it. New characters that come out in this game are generally the strongest and they set the bar higher, and so pulling for these units don't make a lot of sense. It's better to save your pulls, and it's very risky because the chances of getting the one you actually want is much lower. So for the rules of the Destined banner, this can be confusing the way they list this. But okay, so we have a 2% chance that it's a legendary for any pull. On the Destined banner, there's also then, if you trigger the legendary, there's a 75% chance that it's one of the 2 units. And then obviously after that, there'll be a 50% chance if it's the one that you want. This is where it gets confusing here because they're not listing the rules for the Destined banner over here. This is the global, the 100 soft pity rules that they're mentioning here. But if you go down here, the Destined banner guarantee rules. So each Destined banner has a unique period. So these 2 units that are featuring now, they will be out for a few weeks. Each summon in the Destined summon banner will accumulate toward the Destined guarantee count. So it's got its own pity built into specifically for the this Destined banner. That's why it's separate from the other pities. When the Destined guarantee count reaches 180, you will get one of the 2 Destined rate up characters you do not have. So this pity is also 180, just like the debut pity. The Destined pity is also got a hard pity at 180 pulls. If you get one of the units that are in this thing, it will reset this 180 back to 0 again. It says here, when the Destined guarantee is triggered, the overall guarantee summon count will remain unchanged. Like I said, they're separate from each other. It's calculated independently, not affecting the summon count of the other type of summon events. So not affecting your soft pity for the random legendary and not affecting your hard pity for the debut legendary. These overall guarantee counts and Destined counts exclude summoning attempts from the first summon. So when you're starting a new game, that first summon is also excluded. Okay, so that's the Destined banner, and then we have something called the Standard banner, and this is something I almost never used once since playing the game. This is just for a random legendary that's already in the game. No specific one, it's just, yeah. Would never recommend pulling on this, especially in the current game state. So this is just a random legendary unit, and this falls underneath this soft pity of 100 pulls, which I'm currently sitting at 32, which is just a random unit that's currently in the game. And then underneath we have something that's even less important, the standard legendary weapon pull. So I would recommend that you never pull for this. Eventually you reach a point where you have all of these legendary items and even excess of them, and they lose their value. It's not worth it using your precious luck site for this at all, under no circumstances. So one thing I wanted to clarify about the soft pity, and you can check your soft pity under the history here. So the 100 pull soft pity that you have, mine is currently sitting at 32 pulls. So a little tip here, in order to use this strategically, in order to use this correctly where you actually want it, you need to keep track of this number, this 32 pulls, and then you have to select which banner you want that to apply to over here. So for example, that 32 pulls will trigger a random legendary character, right? If I'm pulling on the debut banner, if I select debut banner for example, and I pull on this, and we reach that 32 pulls, it's going to trigger this 32 pulls. It's going to trigger a random legendary unit, which means that random legendary unit has a 50% chance to be the debut unit, because there's a 50% chance of triggering the debut unit. So that's how you can use your soft pity on the banner, even on the debut banner. Or you can save this 32 pulls and you can select the Destined banner for example and pull on the Destined banner. And once you reach that 32 pulls, it's going to be a random legendary unit, but it's going to be under the Destined banner's percentage chance of 75% chance of being one of these two units. That's how you can use this soft pity, by selecting which banner you want that soft pity to apply to. I hope that makes sense. And just always come mentally prepared, because it's very psychological. So these gacha games, they use our emotions to beat us. They know our emotional weaknesses. One of the hardest emotions is the emotion of loss. Once you're triggered into that sense of loss, you just lose all control and you cannot stop pulling. So understand that we're all emotionally very vulnerable when we're pulling for these units. You'll pull 10 pulls and then you won't get anything. 20 pulls, you won't get anything. 30 pulls, you won't get anything. Your heart rate starts going up. You start experiencing that sense of loss. You start getting desperate and you keep pulling, and the more you pull, the harder it is to stop. Eventually you can blow all your pulls up, and then that will just trigger you into that sense of loss. And the only way we can get rid of that sense of loss is pulling out our bank cards and spending money. And so these are the systems that are in place that always beat us. And just be aware of our emotional weaknesses so that you protect yourself from yourself. So always come in with a plan. I'm going to pull this certain amount of pulls for this unit, and at this amount I'm going to stop. That's what I did with Credenza when she released last week. I said, you know, I'm only going to try about 50 pulls on her. Once I reached 50 pulls, I just stopped myself and I just cut my losses, and I walked out and I left the unit. I'm going to skip her. Another reason why, if you do a whole lot of pulls on a unit and you don't get them, it's not a complete waste of your pulls, because it's gotten you closer to the pity. So what I mean is, if we go to the details here, so you start off at 180 hard pity until you get a unit, And so I did a number of pulls, about 50 pulls on Credenza. I didn't get her, but it reduced my hard pity down to 92 pulls. So it's not a waste. I now have 92 pulls until I'm guaranteed to get a debut unit. So what I did is I stopped and I saved this 92 pity for the next debut unit that's coming out, which will be Camelot in this instance. So now I know that when Camelot comes out, I'm guaranteed to get him at 92 pulls. So I don't even want Credenza anymore, because if I do pull her, this will reset the 92 pulls back to 180 pulls. So when Camelot comes out, the hard pity will be at 180 pulls again. This is why it's important to have a plan. How many pulls are you going to pull for a unit that you don't really want? And then you stop at that number and don't let your emotions run out of control, where you reach that point where you get to the sunk cost fallacy. Basically, the sunk cost fallacy is where if you've invested in something, you cannot stop yourself going after that thing because you've already invested in something in it. So you just keep going until you get it because you've already invested yourself and your resources into that thing. So it's hard to pull yourself out of something. So always have a plan, and that's why I came in prepared with a plan, and I said I will stop at a certain amount. And now I'm in a good position for the next debut unit. I'm 92 pulls guaranteed from getting him. I do the same thing with the 100 soft pity as well. Down here, if you go to your history in the left corner here, you have the soft pity number here. I will save this number as well wherever possible. The soft pity, I have 32 pulls until I'm guaranteed a random legendary unit. And remember, this soft pity, there's a 50% chance that this random legendary that's in the games pool could be the debut unit as well. So when Camelot comes out, the next debut unit, once I trigger 32 pulls, I have a 50-50 chance of getting Camelot from here as well. That's excluding the debut hard pity for 92 pulls. I have a nice 50% chance, so I'm in a really good position. When he releases, I could get him here, 50% chance. If not, after 32 pulls, then I just have to do another 60 pulls, and then I'll get to this number over here and trigger that. So don't let your emotions be manipulated by these gacha systems, where they trigger that sense of loss or use the sunk cost fallacy, our emotional human weaknesses, in order to get you to the point where you lose self-control. So understand your weaknesses so that you can protect yourself from your own weaknesses. I know it's very psychological. It's supposed to be a game, but it's very psychological. And just be aware that these kind of systems are in place. Be aware that a game is being played and that it's being played with you, so that you know what's going on and you're not getting played, but instead you play the game on your own terms. Because yes, emotional weaknesses are used here. We're pushed into that sense of loss. We go into that fight and flight where we try to retrieve what we lost. It's like the hardest emotion for a human. And once you're at that sense of loss, you're just so desperate to get all your hard-earned hours of Luxite. You want to get it back. So a lot of people are pushed into that sense of fixing that sense of loss, and then they'll push towards the shop, and then they end up spending money because they've lost against their emotional weaknesses, which have been kind of manipulated by the game, because the game always wins. The probability is always in their favor. We only have a 2% chance to get a legendary unit. All the odds are in their favor. There's only a 2% chance. If you do one single pull, for example, there's a 2% chance that one pull will be a legendary unit. That odds are really against us. And one pull is 150 Luxite, which is equivalent to like completing 4 missions and receiving 40 Hope Luxite for each of those missions. 4 missions of work that you're putting into, and you only have a 2% chance to get a legendary unit from all of that work that you've done. I like to think of it as taking a shot in XCOM with a 98% chance of successfully landing the hit, and you miss the shot. You miss a 98% chance of missing a shot in XCOM. The odds are really against us there. So obviously, you know, the system has got the advantage over us. And so that's why we need to come in with a plan and use this pity very strategically, very planned out. Use your soft pity that you can use, the 100 pull soft pity. Use that strategically, plan it. Use units that you don't 100% want to get. Like for me, I was kind of 50-50 about Credenza. So I didn't go deep into the pools for Credenza. I just tried a couple, tried my luck. If I don't get her, that's fine. Then I can save the pity for the next unit. But if it's a unit that I really am desperate to get, for me, I love Camelot, the next unit that's coming out. I'm willing to go all the way to even hard pity for Camelot, which would be 180 pulls. Because for me, that's my priority number one. So understand what are your priorities, what's the unit you must get for yourself, and then you can go all out for those units. What are units you're not even sure about, etc. And never go all out for the units you're not sure of. Maybe just try your luck, or skip them completely is what I would recommend. But if you're gonna try your luck, then have a plan and know where you're gonna stop. Yeah, so just to recap, always come in here prepared. Don't come in here casually like it's just a game. It's quite psychological, quite emotional. If you come in here complacently, it could lead you into a point where you just lost self-control and ended up spending money without even knowing what happened to you, having your emotions manipulated. We spoke about the different banners, the debut banner for the latest units. They come with their Astral gear as well, the Destined banner for 2 units that are already in the game. I wouldn't recommend pulling for these. These units are not as good as the new units usually that come out. We have the standard banner, you can stay away from that. We have the standard gear, you especially never want to go there. For the debut unit, you have 180 pulls for hard pity, where you're guaranteed to get the unit within 180 pulls. You also have what we call soft pity, which is 100 pulls for any random legendary unit that's within the game. If you do trigger that soft pity, there's also a 50% chance that it could be the debut unit. And the Destined banner also has its own separate pity built into it of 180 pulls there. One thing I didn't mention, if you do go to your history, your pull history, it shows the percentage rate that you have, successful rate that you have for pulling legendaries. Mine's at 2.24%. If this number goes below 2.0%, the game has a sort of fail-safe built into the game where you cannot have a number that's below 2%, so it will automatically give you a legendary unit, maybe even 2 if it goes really low, so that it will push this number above 2.0%. That's another fail-safe that's there if you really do have bad luck. I triggered that a few times myself. It'll also show you the stats here of how many times you've pulled and how many legendaries you've got. You can go back here to see your pulls. What was the latest unit I got? Flavia was the latest legendary I pulled. This one was a random pull for me. I got unlucky on Credenza. I didn't get the 50% chance to get her, and I ended up getting a random legendary in the game, which was Flavia. Remember, it's a 50% chance if you pull a legendary that you're going to get the debut unit. We also spoke about Astral gear. Wouldn't recommend this for free to play players. Very expensive to pull on this. Later in the game, we will get tickets where we can get a few pulls for free on these things, but usually not recommended, especially if you don't know what you're doing, to pull for the Astral imprints. As a free-to-play player myself, I usually try to get 1, maybe 2 copies if it's a really good one. Sometimes a portion of the unit is locked behind this, and you kind of need this in order to unlock your unit. In Credenza's case, she does really need this thing. It's very good for her. It's going to give her energy, it's going to help her to reduce her HP, which all ties into her trait. So for a unit like this, you know, I would need a copy, at least 1 copy of this. The rest, as a free-to-play player, I usually just get in the store. You have a 1 out of 3 chance to get this gear later, about a few weeks later or a month later. This will appear in the store as well. Just to show you, at the store, under exchange and gear, all the Astral gear that's previously been released in the game will be under here. You have your Astral shards, very rare. These are very difficult to come along. And then there's 3 items in here, 3 gears in here, and usually it's just the one you want. Try to pull on packs where there's at least 2 things in here that you wouldn't mind getting, because you have a 1 out of 3 chance of getting the one that you want. And if there's, say for instance, I wanted the Blade of Stratagem, but I don't want the Dawnlight or the Hammer. If I have no use for those other 2 items, I wouldn't recommend pulling on this, because you may end up with, you have a 1 out of 3 chance of getting the one you want. Also, make sure you're careful to select the correct thing here as well. Never use Astral shards over here for a regular legendary item. These ones over here are just regulars. Make sure you use it for Astral gear. It says Astral under there. Never use it for one of these. 600 for this is insane. What a waste. So I hope this helped you guys to just pull in a more safe way and to pull with a plan that you know what you're doing, because this is very important. This is your hard-earned luck site. You spend hours grinding up with this. It's a very important part of the game. Shouldn't be underestimated. And if you do it right, it can actually be an enjoyable experience as well. Hope you found this useful, guys. If there's more beginner guides that you'd like to see, let me know, and hopefully I can get around to it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.